Hello, hello. I hope you're doing awesome. Okay, in this episode, I'm going to talk about writing. We're going to talk about 5 ways to become a better writer. And I've been thinking about this a lot, especially because I'm always looking to become a better writer. And for those of you that know, I did publish my first book this year. It's called Do What You Love. And it was a really interesting journey. And I've talked about it on some of these episodes because I did hire a writing coach, which was very helpful. I just learned so much more about the writing process. I also talk a lot about how much I've learned from other authors because I was reading really great books about writing, like Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott and On Writing by Stephen King. And just and of course, Julia Cameron has many books that are just wonderful. And Anne Hanley has a book called Everybody Writes. She actually just did a new version of that book this year. And so you get to learn a lot about the writing process from different authors. And so there's a lot of consistency in those messages. And one of the things that that was similar in every author that I learned from was that that great writers are not afraid to write write badly, like get out the horrible first draft. And it's so important for us to do that, especially with so many creators being such perfectionists. And we want to sit down and write these beautiful masterpieces, but it just doesn't work that way. So, in this episode, I wanted to share 5 ways to become a better writer. And this is just based on my experience. And hopefully, you will gain something from one of these five or all five, and maybe put some of this into your writing practice. This also goes for creatives, right? I mean, I feel like the writing process is the creative process. It can be, I mean, the same thing really applies for anything that you're creating, whether you're doing a podcast or you are working on videos or YouTube channel or whatever that is. These are kind of similar principles or ideas that support you in any of those creative efforts. So the first thing I want to share of the 5 ways to become a better writer is to write often. Create a writing habit. And I have an episode where I talk about how to create a writing habit, but it's so important for us to write. It sounds so simple, right? But I find that so many people who say they want to write a book or they want to become a better writer, and when I ask them how often they're writing now, they say they don't really have time to write. And of course, we all can make excuses, right? Well, oh, in the morning is when I'm most creative, but I have to get up and get to work. And then in the evening, I'm just not as creative. So I just don't write. Well, okay. Well, we can make excuses all day long for why we're not doing the thing that we say we want to do. But if we really want to make time for it, we will find the time, right? Even if it's not the perfect time. Like some people will say, well, wake up a little earlier. Okay, you don't want to do that? Fine. Then write in the evening, even if you don't necessarily feel like it, or even if you don't feel like you're as inspired as you want to be. I talk about inspiration in my book. Myth number 7 is inspiration will strike. Inspiration doesn't usually strike, it strikes after we start doing the work. And so think about whatever creative project you're working on, but if it's writing, if you don't have the time to write and you're kind of going through your calendar and you're like, well, I can't do it in the morning and I can't do it in the afternoon, and you're giving all the reasons why you can't do it, well, then my challenge to you is, okay, well, when can you? When can you find 10 minutes to write? If you say you want to write, what is possible? If it's impossible for you to wake up early, if it's impossible for you to write in the evening, what is possible for you? Because there are things that you can control and there's things that you can't control. You can control your calendar and what you are going to prioritize in your life. And so, what is possible for you? And start with that, even if it's only 5 minutes. And once you start with that and you start to create this habit, then you'll probably find other pockets of time to write if it truly is something that you really want to do. So number 1 is to write often. Write every day. Seth Godin talks about how he thinks that everybody should blog every day. We all have ideas every day. We don't all write them down every day, but we all have ideas every day. And so write as much as you can, write daily. I often share that, journaling every day is such an incredible thing. I know not everyone loves to journal, but journaling is writing, right? Like you're putting pen to paper, you're getting ideas out of your head and onto the page. So number 2 is to read often. Read often. So you get to write often and then you get to read often. So to become a better writer, we need to read as much as we can get our hands on. Read really, really great books, read articles and magazines and blogs and emails. And what's so great about the more that we read, the more that we'll really find and discover, oh, what do I really like about this person's writing? Why do I feel so drawn to this author? What are they doing that really sparks my interest? Why is this such a page turner? We start to recognize language and dialogue and the way that different writers approach their communication style. And the more that we read, the more that we're able to kind of discover what we like and what we don't like and how it can influence our own writing. Now, obviously, we're not copying anybody, but there are definitely authors out there that you probably like more than others. Matthew Kelly is one of my favorite authors, and he has sold over 50 million copies of books. That's a lot of copies of books. And his writing style is so simple and easy to understand, and it flows. He doesn't use a lot of big fancy words. He just speaks to you as if he's in the room with you. And that's the kind of writing style that I really, really love and appreciate. In fact, I had a couple friends of mine reach out to me and say, I'm really enjoying your book because your writing style is so easy and it flows, and I can hear you talking to me. Now, obviously, they know me, so they know my voice too. But I thought that was just such a great compliment because I did write it in a way that I wanted it to be a really easy read. Why? Because I really enjoy books that are an easy read. We've all probably picked up a copy of a book where we're going through it and you've read a couple of pages and you're like, wait, what? What did I read? What was that? I got to go back. And so the more that we read, the more that we really understand what it is that we like and how we can gain a little bit more influence from other really great authors. Number 3, get a coach. Get a writing coach. If you are serious about your writing habit, practice, if you want to write a book, if you want to get better at writing emails or blogs or copy or anything, get a writing coach. This was such a game changer for me because it was almost as though I was writing a lot, and then when I would read my work, what happened was I thought, I like this, but it's not flowing the way I want it to. It's not quite there yet, but I don't know how to fix it. That's how I would feel. I was like, I don't know how to fix it. I feel like it's okay, but something's wrong with it and I don't know what it is. And so when I did hire a writing coach, I learned she gave me feedback that hurt my feelings a little bit, I will admit, but more so because I love constructive criticism. I love it. Bring it on. I want to take it. I want to learn from it. I want to grow with it. And what I discovered was that she was able to, the feedback that I got from her was after I got over the pain of all the of all the red that was on the page. I was like, oh, she's right. Like, I understand. Like, she would kind of explain to me why it probably wasn't working. Now, she didn't necessarily tell me how to fix it. She just kind of was sharing with me why it potentially was off. And she would give me ideas of like the direction to go in. And that was really helpful. One of the things that I really learned from my writing coach was transitions. And I never really thought about transitions, but when you're reading a really great book, do you ever notice how, from every line builds on every line, and then every paragraph just flows really, really nicely and really well. And then you might read a book where it kind of is jarring and you're thinking, whoa, this paragraph shifted the mood or came out of a different direction or came out of nowhere. And so transitions was a really big thing that I realized I didn't do very well. And so I had to learn how to do transitions a lot better, but I didn't even know that was a thing. And now I obviously pick it up when I'm reading other books. I notice it instantly now. But before, I really didn't know that was a thing. And so having a writing coach that can really look at your work in a way that from a third party perspective, and kind of, when we read our own work, we're so in touch with our own selves, and we know what we're meaning to say. But when someone else is reading it, they're seeing it from a different perspective and they're experiencing it in a different way. And so it's really beneficial to have that person share with you how they're experiencing it and what it means to them and how they're taking it, and how you might be able to kind of rework it in a different way, a more powerful way. Number 4 is to join a writing community. There's lots of really great communities. I found Writer's Digest, and they have a lot of really great workshops and programs, and they have a couple of different opportunities for you to even share your work and get some feedback from it. So finding different writing communities is just really helpful, because you're able to learn from other authors, learn from other people that are writing, and they might have really great resources or tools, or discovered something that really helped them in their writing process. And it's also really cool if you do know a couple of other writers, reach out to them and ask them, hey, do you want to maybe have like a writing community? Maybe you can get 3 or 4 people together and share each other's work. So I've done that with some friends of mine in the past, where one of my girlfriends, Flo's, who I have had on the podcast, we were writing. She's a writer. She's published a few different books, books of poetry. And we would come together every month and we would share each other's work, and then we would give critiques and talk through it. And it was really a fun experience, because we got to read our work together and then give each other feedback. So whether it's a community that you can find online, or, I mean, obviously now with social media and everything, there's so many different communities that you can be part of, kind of a little bit more passively. And then there are some that are a little bit more active, where you can just be involved in the community. Probably lots of really great Facebook groups and things too, if you go searching around for them. So find some communities that are really helpful, that you feel like people are doing the work, they're writing, and they're also giving some really interesting feedback and some data that you can potentially use in your writing journey. And number 5 is share your work. Share your work. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to share everything. I'm not saying that everything I write, I share. That is definitely not true, because I write a ton and I share none of it, like in my journals. But when we share our work, we are allowing other people to consume it. And when we do that, we're able to get feedback, like what is working, what is resonating. So I had a friend of mine who he's been writing these really long form LinkedIn I guess articles. They're really just posts. He was sharing them as posts, and I had texted him and I said, hey, have you thought about turning your posts into blogs? Because they're quite long and it's a lot to read in a post, but they're really helpful, and I really appreciate the content and the information. And he called me and he said, oh my gosh, it's so interesting that you said that, because I've had a couple of friends of mine reach out and ask me the same thing. So how cool is that he's been sharing these posts and people are really resonating with them. They really like them. And so I thought, what a way to curate your posts and turn them into maybe a blog post or an article. And he's writing his next book. He published his first book last year. He's writing his next book this year, and he could use some of that to write the book, which is really interesting as well. So share your work. When you share your work, you start to pick up on what are people liking. And sharing your work doesn't mean, a lot of times when it comes to writing, what's interesting is that unless you're a writer and you're actually looking for specific things, or you're like noticing different things about someone's writing style, oftentimes we don't really know why we like something, right? Like if you watch a movie, or if you watch a YouTube video, or a piece of music, or a piece of poetry, we like it because we like it. We don't necessarily know why we like it, right? I mean, I feel like writing is so interesting. Like there's just authors that you really love, but you're not analyzing, why do I love this writer? are they doing great transitions or are they speaking really simply? You're just like, oh, I just really like it. And so when other people are experiencing our work, then we just get to notice, oh, what are they really resonating with? And then you, as the writer, gets to decide, oh, this post did a lot better than this one. Why? Why is that? Maybe you did use a little bit different language. Maybe your cadence was very different. Maybe you were more, maybe you were speaking a little bit more as if you normally speak instead of kind of trying to just sound super smart, which I think a lot of people do in their writing. We want to use big words. In fact, I was just, a girlfriend of mine is writing her next book, and she asked me if I would read some of it. And so I started reading it. It was so funny because I was giving her constructive criticism, as we can definitely ask for. It's very helpful, but that's really, really fun to be able to do with your friends. And I said to her, I pointed out a couple words and I was like, would you really say this? And so she called me up. She goes, I have never said that word. I think the word was abyss. And she goes, I've never said the word abyss out loud ever. But it was a dramatic story that she was sharing. And so she used that language. And I thought, well, that's so funny because that's what I picked up on. I was like, this is not how she talks. And so this book is a very spiritual book. She's a very spiritual person. And so it was funny to me because I'm like, you're trying to really resonate with the people, with the readers, the people that are listening. And so you get to use your own language because people really resonate when you're speaking to them and they're coming to you for advice and feedback and when you're coaching them. And so share your work. Don't be scared to share your work and put it out into the world and see how people are reacting to it, because that's just going to help you become a better writer. So those are 5 ways to become a better writer. These are all things that I have been practicing myself over the past couple of years to really get better and hone in on my writing skill, my writing habit, my writing practice, and always getting better, right? We can always become better at what it is that we're really interested in getting better at. So like I said, if you are a writer, I hope these were helpful for you. And if you're not, I hope that you were listening to this thinking, wow, I can apply these same principles in the podcast that I do, the videos that I create, or whatever other creative endeavor you have. Because again, I think in any creative practice, these are all things that we can work on and use to support the work that we're doing and to help us grow and get better. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please like it and also share it with someone who you think might find it valuable as well. I also invite you to subscribe to my channel so we can stay connected.